Hello everybody of Mrs. Beals Period 1. I am Afif Fakhmad and I'll give us the latest news and updates of our class. Just recently in class, we finished reading the book 1984 by George Orwell. And wow, how amazing was that book, right guys? Earlier today I asked a group of various students about the book 1984 and asked how relative the story is to our topic question. Alright guys, today's core question is, can a society be based on hate to survive? Our first question was answered by our fellow classmate Ryan Brett. And he answered the question, who was right? Winston or Brian, when they met on how a society should be survived on?
I believe that a society based on hatred, fear, and cruelty cannot survive. Just like in the book 1984, Winston believes that a society specifically based on hatred for power is impossible. I agree with him because hatred is not a reliable source of power and can become unstable given the right circumstances.
Thank you, Ryan, for that very nice, well-written speech. I strongly agree with everything you said in that speech. Up next is Katie McKinnon, and she'll be talking about how the Nazis and the government in 1984 are similar.
In 1984, Big Brother's desire to obtain and maintain power causes them to force people to neglect and betray others. And eventually this form of government collapsed and it didn't last. And there are events in the past such as the Holocaust where the Nazis were so fueled by all their power that they eventually persecuted 11 million people. And then eventually the Nazis were so disgusted by all this power that they started to help some of the prisoners escape. Clearly, as we can see, the motivation to keep power cannot keep people from loving and keeping friendships.
Thank you, Katie, for that nice speech. I totally agree on how the form of government in 1984 will soon fall just because of how relative it is to the Nazis. Up next we have Zaraya, and she'll be talking about how the Soviet Union's government is relative to how Big Brother ruled Oceania.
In many ways, the Soviet Union and Russia was just like the government in Oceania in 1984. The main ideologies of the Soviet Union was Marxism and Leninism, which was based on atheism and that the individual was not a part of the collective. Many of the people who are a part of the party of the Soviet Union were not allowed to be affiliated with religion, and all of the churches and the church leaders were arrested and burned down. Although people had a job, a home, and food, they were not allowed to have their basic rights of freedom. And as a person who believes in a God and who would like to serve that God, I would not like that to live in a country that would take that freedom away from me. That's just not right. Another way that the Soviet Union is also similar to the government in Oceania is that they actually also had a secret police. And if your neighbor or your friend didn't like you, they could turn you into that police. That's just crazy, right? A society like the one in Oceania and Russia could never survive. It is based on hate and not on love and the basic rights of humans. And that is why in the Soviet Union, it only lasted from 1922 to 1991.
Wow, I am so amazed and so informed, Zaraya. Thank you so much. And I totally supported every claim you said in that speech. Up next we have Alexa, and she'll be talking about on how, even today, there's a form of government somewhere in Africa that still practices Big Brother's rule.
Eritrea is a small country in Africa that has shown similar traits just like Oceania. They're under the rule of the president Isaias Afwerki since 1993. He is practically the big brother in Eritrea. He's been in rule since 1993, and under his rule there have been severe forms of oppression. There's no freedom, people suffer torture, and there's no independent media. All information from the country to the people comes from the country itself, no outside information. The citizens of Eritrea are forced to serve an 18-month military term, but it always turns into the soldiers being forced into labor camps. Because of the oppression freedom, people have started to protest, and recently because a young group of people have stormed into the Ministry of Information and gave a live report to the world about the abuse going on in Eritrea. It only lasted for a few minutes, and after that, the transmission was cut off. And within a few minutes after that, the country was able to wipe out all information about the incident ever occurring, and it was like it never happened. Eritrea is the Oceania in our world, and it just like Winston, the group of protesters tried to make a change, but it didn't occur. But it's a small step to end the cycle of hatred in Eritrea.
I am so scared right now. There's Big Brother out there today. Oh my god. Thank you for the information, Alexa. And now to conclude our news segment, we have Bruce Kim. And he'll be talking about some random thing and how it is related to Oceania in 1984.
A world based on fear, cruelty, and hatred will not be able to survive in civilization, because at one point in time, love and affection will have to come in the picture. In the past, hatred and negativity could not survive in civilization. In the 1960s, Martin Luther King Jr. found a possibility that black and white citizens could truly be equal. Therefore, he joined the civil rights movement for black Americans. Black people face discrimination and segregation while being treated as second-class citizens. This time period was filled with huge abundance of racial inequality. Martin Luther King Jr. stated in his speech that darkness cannot make darkness go away. Only light can make darkness go away. Hate cannot make hate go away. Only love can do that. This quote demonstrates how hatred cannot be resolved with more hatred. Only love can resolve the hatred. The abhorrence and hatred cannot fix the problems in the world, but create even more problems. That is where love and kindness enters the picture and fixes the problem with peace. In the book 1984, Winston states to O'Brien that in the end, they will beat you. Sooner or later, they will see you for what you are, and they will tear you to pieces. Winston claims that all of evil in the world will sooner or later be ridden, because good will destroy it. In a world that is filled with hatred and negativity, positivity will always find a way to overcome animosity and antagonism.
Woo! 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 Wow, thank you, Bruce. That was pretty amazing. Wow, I've learned so much today. I definitely know that a society cannot be run on hate, and it has to be run on something much more positive, like love and caring and anything. Thank you for tuning in, Mrs. Beale's Period 1 class. I'm Afif Ahmad, signing out.